Houston, say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Hey there folks, welcome you all to yet another podcast of mine. I am going to start this podcast off with a rather special flaggings up to my dear colleague and friend Paul, who suddenly passed away this week, people, on Wednesday. And it was very sudden. It wasn't expected. I've worked with him for 16 years, and we've all been working obviously remotely and such like from home. And I don't know the causes and such like, but sadly he kind of went a little. We couldn't quite get hold of him, and then eventually, I think a family member went to his house and found him in a bad way, and things went from bad to worse, I think. So I just wanted to raise a glass to him, a lovely man, and I hope you have found a pub up there in the sky where you can sit and have a pint and smile down on us all, Paul. You will be missed. Very special character. So I just wanted to begin this podcast with that shout out to him. So it has been a very strange week with that happening, and it's happened at a point where it's extremely busy as well, so there's not really been a lot of time to sit and ponder over it. I did. It was very, well, it was ironic really, because I've not been in the office where we normally work together. I mean, I normally work in the office a few days a week, then home the rest of the time, because it doesn't really matter where I am doing what I do. I can do it from either location. But it just so happened I had to go in on site for the first time in 5 months on Thursday, and we got that news on Wednesday night. So I took the opportunity to sort of gather his things together and put them into little boxes, and the little cleaner actually at the college happened to be there when I walked in. So she helped me sort out his desk and stuff, and we put all his bits and pieces into boxes for his family and stuff like that, because I had to go in and do help do these big upgrades on some software and sit with another lad to do it. So it just happened to be that day that I was going in, that it happened the day before, and I was like, pff. Anyway, it's just been a very strange week. But it's been a good week work-wise. Got a lot done. The thing I've been writing, and I'm still writing, but the version that was needed for day one went live on Monday. That's all been going really well. Lots of bugs to fix, as there always is, but I've been fixing them as we go. But it's been really well received, so that's been great news. And just getting on site, and in fact I managed to meet one of the new guys, Kester, who's joined the IT team, and I'd met him on video, but I hadn't met him in person because he joined when lockdown was in effect. Well, we're still remoting, but the IT guys are on a rota basis, so they have to go in, but the MAS team don't. So it was just nice to get out and see a few faces and get on campus again. It was nice to see the campus, although it was dead, because obviously nobody's allowed on site as yet. Unless it's absolutely necessary. And it will be a hustle and bustle as long as nothing dramatic happens before September. Then there'll be a hustle and bustle of students coming back to the college, which will be fantastic to see. And there's all sorts of safety things in place, which will be, social distancing and stuff will have to be done as best it can, but obviously in a classroom environment that's very difficult. But yeah, it would just be nice to see the place alive again, to some degree. But I'm saying that I won't see it much, because I'll only go in if I'm absolutely needed. The support staff are going to stay remote as much as they can, unless you actually need to be in front of students or you support them directly, then you don't need to be on site. So there's still an element to it. Gym wise, I did my vlog last Friday, chilled out on Saturday, I went to the gym on the Saturday, the Sunday, and I thought, you know what, for the first time I'm going to get the bike, I'm going to use the bike, I'm going to cycle, because I bought the bike to do this sort of stuff. So and the gym opened the week before that or something. So I thought I'm going to cycle to the gym this time. Really nice weather. So I'll cycle there. And it was a really nice bike ride there, actually. I really enjoyed it. Went in, did a 2-hour session on all sorts of stuff, and felt great because I'd had that week before. I'd already got through all the pain and everything. What I hadn't done the week before was squats with the barbell. And I tell you, I did some major squatting with the barbell. I thought, this is great. This is working all sorts. And then after I did lots of stuff, but then I came out after the 2 hours, and I mean, I would have been quicker just walking along the road with the bike. There was literally nothing left in my legs. What about their legs? And anyway, I did make it, but it was the slower. People must have been going, but I mean, there was old women walking faster than me on the pavement. People, you know. But I did make it back. But it was, it'll be easier next time, of course. But it was definitely the squats that had done me legs in. So there was just nothing left to cycle home with. And then I went for my run on the Monday, and I thought I'll be all right because it was the back of the legs that were hurting, so it'd be fine. It was the worst run I have ever done. It was like 6 minutes over what I normally run, which sounds not much, but it is a lot in the world of 10K. I managed to do it, which I was really proud of, but my God, and it wasn't just my legs either, and my breathing and everything was all over the place. I don't know what that run was about, but my body was obviously like, you needed to rest today, mister. But I managed to do it. And then basically I've done nothing up until today. I did another 10K today, which was a great run. So I'm back to it now. So when I do my session on Sunday at the gym and do my squats and stuff again, I should not have that reaction again. So I think I've worked every muscle group now, so that I don't have to be in any kind of agony or not be able to move. I mean, I basically for 4 days after, right up until pretty much yesterday, basically every time I stood up and every time I sat down, I was like, fuck. It's basically all I could say. It was like, fucking hell, what the hell. So yeah, isn't it wonderful? Exercise is supposed to be good for you. Anyway, should we get on to some game talk, people? Flagons up once again to you all, and Paul up there, you lovely man. Right. Oh, I went for a double dip, people. Right, we do have some things to talk about, people. Some things. If I had half a beer, some things to talk about. I'm also going to try and say less in this video. It's crept back into my speaking. I noticed this when I was watching them back, and it's something I stomped out a long time ago. I stamped out the So if you hear me say it, give me a slap on the camera, will you? So there's nothing wrong with a nice silent pause, people. You don't need to stick Sound like a monk or something. Right. I tell you what, let's kick off. There's a few things I wanted to talk about. There was 2 things I was going to run this around, and we'll talk about both of them. So initially, I was going to talk about the fact that I feel like that. I tell you what, let's not do that. Let's just go to point 1, people. All right. So this is what I've decided is the number 1 topic, right? So then my question is this. Were the launch titles of last gen more exciting and better than the launch titles of this gen, right? Now, I remember last gen, and there's 3 games I'm going to talk about. I ended up in this conversation with Aaron Brew, my son, last night, on text, and we ended up in this massive conversation about, and as always... As always in our conversations, he was the opposite opinion to me. But anyway, it all started with the fact that I'm almost exhausted of trying to be excited about this new gen of consoles. Because I don't think they've done it right. I don't think that they have done any of their launch stuff right. And I think not wrong necessarily, but I don't think they've done it in a time span that would have kept us excited. I would rather have, I'm talking about the second thing now, but I would rather have had it later to hear about this stuff and just let me pre-order and blah. But so that's what instigated it. And when I was thinking about it, and I thought, I remember obviously there was the hoo-ha with the Xbox One, right? The Kinect always being on, and the system always being online, and the system not being as powerful as the PlayStation, and people, it was a bit of a letdown. It was their massive flop was the actual box. But some of the games were great games that were coming, and they were kind of showing off the extra oomph that they had that in that box, even though it wasn't as powerful as PlayStation. It was still way more powerful than the 360. So here's going to throw 3 games at you, right? 2 of which are Xbox, 1 of which is PlayStation, right? Well, 4 games actually, but I couldn't remember if one of them was a launch title or if it came slightly after. I'm going to apologise in advance if you hear dogs, lawnmowers, strimmers, head trimmers, like head trimmers, hedge trimmers, because it's roasting and everyone and their mother and their granny's gone out and decided they're going to do the gardens. But it is too hot to close all the windows, people. It is just roasting. Hopefully the mic sensitivity won't pick too much of it up. So I've got 4 games, I think, but I thought one of them may not have been a launch title and it might have come a bit after. I seem to recollect playing it at launch, but I'm doubtful of it. Someone can remind me in the comments below if that's the case. So here's the 4 games, right? Here's the 3 I know were launch titles. Rise, Son of Rome, Dead Rising 3, Killzone Shadowfall, and the one I'm not sure about, although I think it was a launch title, Infamous Second Son. Now, I remember watching Rise, Son of Rome's first gameplay trailer, and it was that massive scene on the beach where the ships are all sort of come up on shore. He's running down the beach and we're fighting everything, and it was just epic. Like, in fact, there was a massive cutscene before you hit the beach as well, and it looked epic, and I'd never seen anything quite like it before. So, I mean, I'm sure PC might have had something like it, but I'd never seen anything like that. I'd never seen anything done with the Romans like that before at all. In fact, I still don't think I've seen anything to do with Romans on the Xbox or the PlayStation since that I can remember. And I absolutely loved that game. Could the combat have been a bit more in depth? Yeah, maybe. The story was great. The acting was fantastic. It was using all sorts of new hair technology, people. You know what I mean? It was like, his hair was like snakes. So the static hair had all been, that had been replaced with moving hair, and I mean it was a gorgeous game, that, and it was really fun. It was like, I always describe it as Gears of War as a Roman. You know what I mean? That's how it kind of felt. It had that oomph about it, where it was just all about you taking on the masses. Like, come on, bring it. Gladiator style as well. You end up in the arena and all that. I mean, even the because there was I can't remember what it was called now, but there was a part in it where you can go in and do, was it part of the story that? I think it was, yeah. You end up in an arena section, although you can do that stuff outside of the main campaign. You end up in this arena, and they'd made the arena sort of more it was kind of a moving arena, so all these different things lifted and created different environments, which was a great idea. Never would have happened. Well, it might have happened in the Roman days. They were very, very good at making stuff, people. You know what I mean? But I remember loving that game, and I remember the first time I saw the launch trailer for it, I was like, OMG, I want my hands on that right now. And I mean, it looked gorgeous. The acting was great. You could see immediately that we'd jumped a generation, right? Immediately. You knew, looking at that game, you thought that could never have happened. The way that game looks and plays, that could not have happened on a 360. You knew it straight off the bat. And the minute I got my hands on it, I felt the same way. I think there's still a video on my channel somewhere. You can go and dig it out. I've never taken stuff off my channel that I can remember. So there's a video somewhere, and I'm a little bit shyer than I am now, people. You know what I mean? So forgive my commentary. But it's still there, of me getting my hands on Rise, Son of Rome and the Xbox One, and I put some footage on the channel. I'm sure I did. It's still there. So you can go look that out. If you just do a search for Rise, Son of Rome, you'll probably find it. And I remember spinning the camera around, and there was no screen tearing. There was all this waterfalls and everything behind me, and there's no screen tearing anywhere. It was just, it was amazing. And I was really excited. And after all the disappointment of the launch of the actual physical console itself, because people were disappointed with it, I actually liked the Xbox One when it came out. I thought it looked really nice. It was dead quiet. It wasn't as powerful as the PlayStation. Fine, I get it. It's fine. And I never made use. Well, I did actually. I made use of the Kinect a little bit because I used the voice commands for a little bit, and then I was like, nah, I don't need it anymore. It would tell you what, that Kinect 2 was a powerful piece of kit, though. I mean, the camera was awesome on it, and it was just a great piece of technology. But it's been dumped now, and they don't do it anymore. I mean, it's surprising, really, that they dumped the Kinect as hard as they did. I mean, I still feel like if they'd kept the Kinect 2 as an optional piece of kit, there was plenty of people out there. I mean, the Kinect 1 is way up there with one of the most popular and best-selling items, like, ever. I mean, it was so popular. But it's getting the developers to support it that's the issue. But, yeah, I mean, Rise Son of Rome for me, I played that game about 3 times. I mean, I loved it. And it was original. It was something I hadn't seen before. And it looked spectacular. And it was great acting. It was a great story. It was great everything. And there's nothing about that game I didn't like. Was it? I mean, it was 900p, and we'd hoped we were going to be at 1080p at that point. And that's what PlayStation pushed for for all of their titles, which they pretty much managed, I think. So, the only disappointing factor, I guess, was that it was 900p, but it looked spectacular, and it was still looking way better than something on 360 did, because that was all 720p. So, I mean, Rise on its own was a spectacular launch title for me, and I still, to this day, want to go back and play it. I feel like, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that game ever got touched up to be, thank you, touched up to be 1080p. Or 4K for that matter, on the X. I mean, that is a game crying out and begging to be updated for the X. So I kind of never went back to it because I thought maybe one day it will come out, it'll be 4K or 1080p and I can get a go at it again. But it was a spectacular looking game. It was really, really good looking, that game. And I loved it. It was so much fun. And it was what it was. It wasn't trying to be anything else. And the other one from Xbox that I remember was Dead Rising 3, which... I mean, I remember watching that gameplay footage for the first time, and everybody was, when you saw the amount of zombies that were on screen, and you were, mowing them over with your machines and stuff, everyone was just like, the jaws were just like, what? How many zombies on screen? What? I mean, it was, like, you felt you were jumping generations. You felt it. And you also felt it when, I remember they showed the guy in the map, and then he was just running around riding his bike, doing all this stuff, and then he was going into houses, he was climbing through roofs, and going anywhere. And I remember somebody asking them afterwards, it was like, is that entire map like no loading screens in buildings? And they were like, yeah, it's preloaded, like you just run into all the buildings. And everyone was like, what? I realized that generation didn't stay that way for every game, but in that game and in that environment, the whole map had loaded and you just ran around and had fun. And that was a big hoo-ha as well. I mean, I can't remember if there were slightly bigger sections where it did load. I think it triggered a load when you went into story, possibly into another building. But when you were running around in the map itself, there was no load screens in buildings. You just went in the door, out again. And, it was, again, and then visually, it was just a massive jump from 360. And I remember, everyone losing their shit at E3, I think it was E3, but everyone losing their shit at that whatever event it was, like, fucking hell, what? And, I've not seen any title do that yet for all the showcases that we've seen. And certainly they're not telling us about anything on day one. I mean, the only one that's probably the only one that's impressed me gameplay-wise is probably Ratchet & Clank. And to be fair, it looks incredible, don't get me wrong. But the biggest thing that you're in awe of there is the fact that there's no loading screens when he's going through the portals. He's literally flying through different levels in an instance. And that could not happen on this gen. You'd have a loading screen every time you went through a portal. And that's why they've built that game around that story and everything else, because they've got this instantaneous flying through portals and everything mixing it up in a flash. So that has impressed me, but we still don't know if it's a launch title. And I mean, I played Dead Rising 3 with Aaron and we finished that game. And, it was great fun. Did I play it again? I think I played it a few times, never finished it again, but I think I went back to it a few times. And I think I did a bit of multiplayer with other people, or just played campaign stuff with other people. But it was a great, fun game. Dead Rising 4 sort of passed me by. I'm not sure how good it was. Do you know what I'm going to do, people? I'm going to just going to reach over here for a bit. Oh, I knew it was going to do that. Goddamn condensation and placemats. So it's funny when you go out. It's the wooden one. The wooden ones are funnier because you get a massive clanking sound. It's like anyway, what was I saying? I think I'll keep it with me for a bit. There's an people, an So we replace them with so's. I don't mind so's. So I found Dead Rising 3 to be another one that wowed me at the time. And I remember other people going, holy hellfire, you know. And on the PlayStation side, Killzone Shadowfall, I mean, that blew people away. When we first saw that footage of them flying through the air over the city and the way that the light was bouncing off the buildings and the way, I mean, it just looked like a massive jump in tech. And that game, all of those games for me, still stand up to this day. Probably except Infamous Second Son, but not because there's anything wrong with it as such. But I think Infamous Second Son, you know, with it being an open and more open world type thing, I remember it not wowing me the way that the other three did. But the other three, well, I suppose Dead Rising's open world, though, isn't it? To be fair. But I remember thinking it felt, I mean, it was fun in it, but I felt like it was levelly, and I felt like, unlike Infamous 1, where you felt you were in a living, breathing city, that felt more like you were just in a level rather than a city. It didn't feel as natural. But it was still, I still finished that game. I still had great fun in it. And it was still a big title for launch. If it happened at launch, it might have happened after. I can't remember. Someone can remind me. But certainly the first three, Killzone Shadowfall was absolutely stunning, and that game holds up to this day. And I saw a thing on Digital Foundry, and they were saying, I mean, they've mentioned all three of it. Well, they've mentioned Rise and Killzone because they still talk about how good looking those games were. And Killzone Shadowfall, they were saying how disappointed they were. It hadn't been tweaked for the PlayStation 4 Pro. So, you know, I mean, it might play slightly smoother, I don't know, but it certainly hasn't been modified for it in any way, which is a bit of a shame, really. But I think it was just kind of left behind because it was a great looking game anyway, and they've moved on to other things. Horizon Zero Dawn, isn't it? Guerrilla. Well, Horizon. Forbidden West is the next one. I mean, again, Forbidden West looks like it's going to be pretty spectacular, but that's not a launch title. It's coming in 2021. And we didn't really see gameplay, did we? We only saw loads of footage of her riding horses and with the sun glowing through the trees and blah. So until we see proper gameplay footage, we're not going to know. But the underwater stuff looked incredible, though. That looked really smart, didn't it? So just for me, I feel somewhat like it was just... I felt more excited last gen about the games that were coming. And this, well, to be fair, this gen, we don't even know what we're getting. I'm still convinced we're going to get Ratchet and Clank at launch. And I'm still convinced, well, we know Halo's coming at launch, but Halo's kind of, it's kind of launched itself with a whimper. You know, like either people were laughing at it because they said it looked like it could be played on this console, the current ones, or people were saying, well, I don't mind that, but the gameplay looks fun and fine. But this is one of your flagship titles. You've got to blow people away with it. You can't be having mediocre reactions. You certainly can't be saying that the new gen technology is not going to be there at launch, but we'll patch it later. I mean, what the fuck is that all about? You've been blowing your bloody blowholes about this game for 2 years, telling us how amazing it's going to be, and then you don't get ray tracing at launch, which is one of the biggest things they keep saying is going to be on the Xbox Series X. And also, they didn't even show that off on an Xbox Series X. They showed it off on a PC. It's like, well, why are you not showing it on a Series X? It's utterly bizarre. That's always wound me up, and they've done it. I mean, PlayStation have made a point this time of only showing stuff off direct from the PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation 5 dev kit. But that was a PC. I don't understand it at all. It's utterly bizarre. And it sounds to me like they're just not ready. So, is it still that it's too buggy on an Xbox Series X, so they wanted to show it off on a PC they knew worked, and that's fine? I don't know. But there's nothing blowing my socks off at the minute. Whereas last launch, there were games that had me all abuzz and all excited for it. I still, to this day, want to go back and play Killzone Shadowfall. Still want to go back and play Rise, and I just keep holding off because I think, well, if I wait long enough, I'll maybe get a version that just looks even more Uber than I remember. And so I haven't gone back to either of those on the Pro or the X. So I'll maybe give those another go when we hit the next step. Well, certainly, I mean, PlayStation need to come out and be fucking honest with us about the fact that of whether or not all our games are going to work on a PS5. Like, stop fucking around and tell us. Because, I mean, if I get the impression the only reason they're even bothering to do that is because they thought, oh, well, we can't not do it because Xbox are doing it so well. But, either do it or don't do it. But, don't come out and say, oh, well, these will work, but these won't. Or, just do it. You know what I mean? What's the problem like? You know what I mean? It can't be that hard, people. It can't be that hard to make something backward compliant. It can't be. I mean, I get when you were doing very bespoke hardware. I get it, right? But the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One are basically just PCs. I mean, that's basically what they are. They've got a few bespoke pieces of like graphics cards and stuff that have been, faffed about with to make them a specific thing for them. But so far as the architecture and technology goes, there's no, what's the problem? I mean, I get that we're not going to get the advantages of the uber fast loading screens with the games from last time. They'll get a benefit because it's solid state drive, but I don't understand why they're being so coy about the PlayStation 4 backward compatibility. Like, sort it out. I mean, there's three massive gaming companies in the world. Like, all you need to do is make games and consoles. Like, just when you're making your new console, you've got to be thinking about it and just make it work. What is the problem? I mean, it's like, it's almost like, I mean, PlayStation, to be fair, the PS3 FAT was backward compliant. PS2 backward compliant. But they just got fed up trying to support the PS3 FAT, so they just went, now we're not doing it anymore. Because the PS3 FAT basically had a PS2 inside it. So, and then they just didn't do it in the later models. And then PS4, they just couldn't be bothered doing, well, the architecture changed so heavily away from PS3 because they suddenly stopped doing all this, their own, I don't know what it was they were doing with the PS3, but they suddenly stopped doing all that malarkey and went for a far more PC orientated console. And there was no way that PS3 games were ever going to work on there. In fact, if you look at we talked about it last week, didn't we? There's a little fly in here. We talked about it last week where the PlayStation Now, you can play PS2 games and you can download and play PS2 games and PS4 games, but you can't download and play PS3 games. You can only stream them in PlayStation Now. So clearly there's something about the PS3 games that are particularly difficult to be making work on, the architecture was just very, very different by the sounds of it. But I don't understand how it's difficult just to come out and say, your PlayStation 4 games will be fine on a PlayStation 5. So, it's winding me up a little bit, to be fair. Xbox have done that so well, but even they've come out and said we're still testing the games to make sure they all work. So there may well be little games that pitch up in Xbox world that don't quite work in the Xbox Series X, and that's fine. You don't mind the odd one here or there, but just commit to it. Just say, well, if there is one, we'll make sure it works eventually. Just crack on. You know what I mean? It's fine. So I feel like at the moment we need both of them. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some of the Microsoft event now. But Microsoft have basically still only said, yeah, we have, because I saw the thing with Major Nelson on Kind of Funny, and he said we haven't announced our day one games yet, other than Halo. So, yeah, I'm of the opinion that they have to have whatever they do next, and we'll talk about the state of play that happened this week. Well, I'm not going to go through the games, but I feel like whatever both of them do next has to be, these are our launch titles, these are our consoles. You know, we might have 1, 2, 3, and we know PlayStation have got 2, and Microsoft look like they've got 2. These are the prices for them, and, you know, give us everything ready to we can pre-order now. If they don't do that, then it's just getting silly, absolutely silly. And I understand they're working to many constraints that aren't normally there, but either shush and say nothing, and just wait until you know you can do it, or just stop bleating on about it, because it's getting quite tiring, frankly. You know what I mean? Especially when you're showing off your. Don't get me wrong, right? This is frustration. It's not because I have any hatred toward anybody or anything. And I love Phil Spencer, and I love Xbox, love PlayStation. I have all the love in the world for these people. But just do it when you know you can do it. Like, nobody's going anywhere. You know, you don't have to show us a half-ready Halo. Just calm down. Like, you know what I mean? It was almost like they felt like they had to do a game showcase because PlayStation had just done one. Like, don't worry about it. Nobody's going anywhere. Nobody's going to be jumping from PlayStation to Xbox or Xbox to PlayStation at this point in the game. They can't even pre-order the consoles yet, so don't worry about it. Just wait until you're ready. I mean, it's maybe because of, you know, we've been since March, the coronavirus thing's been going on. So maybe it's just they felt like there were going to be leaps and bounds from where they are now than where they actually are. And we can understand that. But if that's the case, then just be honest about it and say, look, we're not ready to show you it yet. And it might be right bang on the eve of things coming out, that we show you what things look like and tell you what you can pre-order and blah. And as long as they're honest about it, it's fine. We all understand. We know the situation of the world at the minute. But to keep drip feeding is sort of meh, you know. I mean, it was great to see Demon's Souls shown. I mean, I was so excited when I saw that trailer. But by the same token, I didn't see any gameplay or what it's going to look like or how it's going to play. Don't know if it's a launch title or not. The fact that there was no gameplay would suggest probably not, even though I really want it to be. So, you know, it's all a little bit, it's a bit mad, people. I've talked a bit about my second point there before I've actually got to it. But I just felt way more excited. We'll just smelt the two together, will we? I just felt way more excited about last gen than I am about this gen. And, you know, maybe a bit of it's because we're not seeing the big crowds and, you know, whooping and hollering when you see the trailers and stuff, but I don't think so. Frankly, I just haven't seen anything that's blown me socks off. So, and I just remember, like, immediately remember, like, the other night, I was like, I remember Rise, I remember Killzone, I remember Dead Rising 3, when I saw them, I was just like, I can't wait, man, that just looks amazing. I felt this leap. But I'm just not seeing it at all. And every time we hear more, it seems to be, oh, well, yeah, we said 60 frames per second, but hang on a minute, you know what I mean? Chances are it'll be 30. It's like, hang on a minute, what are you on about? Like, that massive, awesome demo we saw from PlayStation 5 was 30 frames per second. It looked gorgeous, but it was still 30 frames per second. But, you know, I saw somebody talking about it. But again, just don't make promises that aren't going to happen. That's all I'm saying. Just give us the option to play it in 60 frames per second at 1080p or 4K at 30 frames per second. As long as you give me those options, I'm happy. But don't sit and promise the world when you know you can't deliver it, and devs can't deliver it on their games. You're not going to get... I don't think you're going to get 4K at 60 frames per second in an open world RPG, for example. I just don't see how it's going to happen. You'll get either the ones I've just said. You'll get 1080p at 60 frames per second, or you'll get 4K, or somewhere in between. Like, why does it have to be that jump? I mean, there is the 1460, is there? 1440, 1440p or something? That's sort of just below it, maybe something like that at 60 frames per second. There are other games that can do 120 frames per second in the world of Microsoft, which are more like the Forzas and stuff like that. It just depends on the game. But initially, it's like, this is going to be playing 4K at 60 up to 120 frames per second. But immediately, when you saw gameplay footage of stuff, and then they're asked about it, or Digital Foundry do a thing on it, it's like, yeah, that's playing at 30 frames per second, and it's, you know, it's struggling or something. And you think, well, what are they on about then? Like, it's making all these grand promises that are never going to come to fruition. Plus, developers, it takes them a lot of time to squeeze the juice out of these things. So we will get much better games later that are more, well, sucking up more of that power and using it to get to those results. Of course we are. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm worn out of, which was my second point. I feel like I'm tired now of constant mediocre news. Like, every time you feel like you're going to get really excited, it's just kind of like, I mean, I got excited at the PlayStation 1 because we finally saw the console. I thought it looked great. I'd prefer not to have white, but that's fine. I don't mind. I'll get over it. And I got excited about Ratchet and Clank. I got excited about Demon's Souls, but to the same level of what I saw for Killzone Shadowfall and Ryzen and Dead Rising 3 as a leap or something, that's something I couldn't do now. I don't think so. I mean, they may well have just have been launches for this gen. You know what I mean? Like, it was like I didn't see anything that felt like I was leaping forward massive bounds into a new era of gaming. So I just feel like they need to. They either need to just release messages saying we're not going to do anything now until September, and in September we'll be telling you, as long as everything goes to plan and there's no more coronavirus nightmares that hold us back, in September we'll be telling you what our prices are and when you can pre-order it, and we'll be showing off what our launch games are. And just do that, and just let it just go, just be quiet for a while, because it's frankly just slightly depressing. It's like you want to get yourself so built up for it, and it's like, I'm still not seeing anything that's blowing me pants off, people. I'm still excited for next gen. I can't not be. I'm still going to get the consoles because I know they're powerful consoles. Like they're both. Well, the Series X is twice as powerful as the One X, which is bloody powerful anyway, and then the PS5 is twice as powerful as the PlayStation 4 Pro, so far as I understand it. So they're both going to be great consoles, but I'm not seeing games yet or gameplay footage that's made me go, holy shit, which is what I want to feel. And that's how I felt when I saw those other games. Are those games rated highly? No, they're not. I mean, Aaron sent me the scores for them from Metacritic, and they're average scores, like 7s or something. But that wasn't my point. My point was that when I saw those games, I was wowed. And I've not been wowed. There's been little wows. Like, I got excited when I saw Avowed, is it called Avowed? From the, Obsidian, new Microsoft studio they've bought. And that, the fact that it's a sort of Skyrim-esque sort of first-person RPG, major scale RPG, very excited about that coming, but we've not seen really anything of it other than it just going into first person mode, ready to go with the magics in the other hand. And there's been little splatters here and there that I'm like, but they're not coming at launch, so I'm thinking we're years away from that game, and we're years away from any of the really big stuff that I'm going to be very excited about. So, and to be fair, Horizon Forbidden West, I'm not that stoked for anyway, because I couldn't finish Horizon Zero Dawn for the reasons I've talked about in other podcasts. I just felt like it was a beautiful game with a lazy RPG section. I mean, I say lazy, I don't mean developers are lazy. I just feel like there wasn't any heart and soul put into the kit and the loot and the things that excite you when you're playing through an RPG to make your character really individual, and to make picking stuff up exciting and going to a vendor exciting. Like, there was none of that. Like, it was just the same kit at the same shop for about 20 hours, and if I need to change my clothes in the middle of a field to take on a particular monster because it's got certain perks, it's like, no, now. You know what I mean? Stop it. Behave. I'm enjoying this tonight, people. Blimey, I've gone way on it. I should have split this into 2 podcasts. I think I've been talking for a very long time, although I can't see the clock. Because as you can see behind me, I've actually got the screen ready to play for what was the PlayStation Games Showcase. PlayStation Games Showcase the other day. Now, they did make it perfectly clear that there wasn't going to be any major PS5 announcements, but there would be some PS5 gameplay footage. Well, we'll play it. We'll play it. I have been going on a while, though, people. So I may depend how we go. I still haven't found. I still haven't got a template yet that sort of allows me to put the big images up for you guys. So I may or may not do it. I think because this podcast's going on a very long time. I'll tell you, by the time I get around to editing it, I'll probably just leave it as is. You can see the footage behind me. As it happens, we've got some volume, people. We didn't mean to have that. Hang on a second. My goodness me, people, it's self-producing, this video. I am the producer, I am the editor, I am the host. I am the everything. You're my last, my everything. Thank you. That was Elvis' version of Barry White there for you. I don't know why I went into Elvis mode. Walrus of Love, really. I haven't got a deep enough voice to do Barry White, people. So, if there was anything from the State of Play showcase, it was this. It was Crash Bandicoot. Is it Lost in Time or About Time? I can't remember the title now. Something about time, I think. And I've heard other people talk about this game. I think it possibly was Matt Scoville on IGN. I could have got that wrong, but I think it was him. And he'd got some hands-on with it. And he was saying that for him, he thinks it's the best Crash Bandicoot game, or it has the potential to be the best Crash Bandicoot game that has ever been. And that is really saying something, considering that the original was Naughty Dog, wasn't it, I think? And it looks stunning. The variety of different levels, like you're not just always running away from camera, running to camera. It goes very 3D at points, so you're running through three-dimensional areas. You know, you get the rail sections like you saw there. You get all sorts of, swinging, and the variety looks incredible. And then they get to this point where they show you the different art styles they've given you that you can play it in. And there may well be achievements for those, although they didn't say. But you can play it in all sorts of different art styles. And this really excited me, this game. I have not played a game like this for such a long time, other than Ratchet and Clank. And I would say that I'm probably as excited to get my hands on that game as I am with Ratchet and Clank. It looks like a fun, smiley type game that you're just going to feel good playing. And I think, frankly, there probably is enough of them in the world. It's just that I'm not playing them. And, I mean, it looks stunning. Look at it. And it's still got the absolute vibe that the original, and you said Ratchet and Clank there, Crash Bandicoot has. And I found it really poignant that in Uncharted 4 that they put that section in where Nathan Drake and I've forgotten her name now. Anyway, they sit on the couch together and they're playing, or they're going to have a competition as to who can get the best score in Crash Bandicoot, and you have to play Crash Bandicoot in that game. It's like the PS1 version or something, isn't it? Elena, yeah. And it was just really beautiful to see, and there's still a lot of love for that game in general anyway, or that franchise. And it looks spectacular. I'm not sure if it's got to the art style, but yeah, I think it's at the end. But it's got all the usual characters in it and all the usual people, the things you'd want to see, the Apple collections, and all the hallmark things that you remember from Crash. And Aaron was telling me that, and I didn't know this, but the people that have made this are the people that did the remaster of the Crash Bandicoot games. And I haven't actually played the remasters. I should probably get around to it, shouldn't I? But I really was really excited about this. And I loved the fact they did a deep dive into it. And we got to see all of this gameplay footage. And if anything, and I'm probably not going to go talking all the way through this State of Play now, because I've talked so much about the other topics, but I never intended to go through every game. I really wanted to show off and talk about the Crash Bandicoot. I mean, there's another section that looks terrific. You're inverted and everything else when you're jumping about. Here's the art styles coming up now. Yeah, so you get all these different art styles you can play. Just giving it... There was one that you spin around and you change the colour of the stuff around you so that you can actually see where you're meant to be going. probably come up in a second. It's on the right hand side, I think. They usually put, though, you might put it full screen, to be fair. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it on the TV behind me, but oh, here you go. I think it's this bit. Yeah, there you go. On the right hand side, he's spinning around and everything's going sort of rainbow colours. Looks incredible. Absolutely incredible. Stunning in every format that they've decided to do. All the different art styles. I mean, that's a beautiful touch in a game. It really, really is. And there was the showcase itself had every game in it was really, really pretty, with the exception of Hitman VR and, well, Godfall. I honestly don't know what to make of Godfall. Godfall was at the end of it, and it had the longest deep dive into combat you've ever seen in your life. Yet most of the combat we saw was the same two swings of a sword. It only got slightly better toward the end when you were on the double blades and they were doing, but even then there didn't seem to be a huge amount of diversity in what you were doing. It literally felt like you were just sitting there hitting X all the time, and if you hit X in a certain pattern it'll do a different thing. So I don't know what that game is trying to be or do, and I think they described it as a looter/slasher or something, but the problem with the game is there's nothing for me, there's nothing inviting about that world. There doesn't look like any depth of interest in it. So you're just running around slightly pretty. I mean, I don't think that looked like a next-gen game either, and it was playing from the PS5. I feel like I could easily be playing that game on this gen. Easy. I don't even feel like, if I watched that gameplay, I wouldn't even feel like it's pushing the boundaries of this gen, never mind next gen. So I don't think it was a great game to be showing off as a PS5 showcase game or something. And, I'm not hating on the game. I just don't understand what that game's trying to be, and I don't understand. I'm an RPG man. We all know that. That's not appealing to me. I'm a dungeon crawler. Yeah, if it's a good one, but that's not appealing to me. So who's it appealing to? I don't understand who it's appealing to. So I don't get any buzz from it. And yet we had about 10-minute breakdown of it. Like, that Hitman just didn't look good at all. Well, sorry, that's unfair. It looked like what it is. It's a VR game, but it looked like it was running at about 20 frames per second. It was jittery all over the place. Sticky screen, people. Did I have anything else on my list, people? Yes, well, Crash Bandicoot 4. It is actually Crash Bandicoot 4 as well, but it's called something Lost in Time. I'm sure it's Lost in Time. Anyway. So it is carrying on from whatever happened in the other Crash Bandicoots. Things of any relevance will carry on as they did. So there you are. I mean, I had every intention of talking while this was going on behind me, slightly more fuller on the state of play. I didn't actually intend to go through every game though, because there was loads of gorgeous stuff in it though. There really was. I was really, really impressed with a lot of the little games that were in there, but you could tell that it was a showcase for the smaller devs. And what was the other one Spelunky. I've never played Spelunky, right? But I was looking at Spelunky 2 and I thought, how interesting is that as a 2D platformer? It looked really gorgeous. Looked like it was full of loads of fun. So that's something I may visit at some point. I really need to put a bit of diversity in my gaming. I always seem to be playing third person over the shoulder, blah, blah, blah. So, there's so many great games out there that I never get out of my way. But this is why when I talk about Games Pass and all that malarkey, even PlayStation Now, if you're paying for those subscriptions, you're more likely to try out games, because it's like, well, why not? Because it's free. I'm paying my £10 a month and it's free. Or $8.99 on Now and $7.99 or $10.99 on Xbox Games Pass. So yeah, I think I'm really going to go down that route next gen. I think I'm really going to start. I think rather than just be, I mean, how often is it really that a massive title comes out that I have to have on day one? Generally speaking, if it's for the channel, it'll be an RPG, and I'll say, well, I want to have it so I can do some Let's Play for you guys, because it'll probably be popular for the first few episodes at least. And that's part of the interest of my channel, is me showing stuff off when it first comes out, because people want to know what it's like and whether or not they should buy it. So, those are the games I'll probably get at launch. The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima probably were the first two major titles I bought in a long time, brand new. I always end up just waiting until they go cheaper, and by that nature, the chances are it might hit Games Pass anyway. I don't think I'd go for PlayStation now. I don't see the point because I've got my PS3 sat there anyway, and I can put all my PS3 collection in the machine. And I've got my entire PS4 collection, which hopefully will play on the PS5 anyway. But yeah, I mean, honestly, every game, I keep seeing stuff flash up because I've got the images in front of me as well as behind me because the laptop's there recording what we're doing and playing this. And it's connected via HDMI to the TV. But yeah, this game was really interesting because I can't remember what it was called off the top of my head. It probably just said and I've forgotten. Was it Pathfinder or something? And yeah, it was a new take on sort of bow combat because it's not all about aiming. It's more about just general direction and timing. So if you have to time your shot right. And each time you get the shot right, you speed up. And then you get to a point where you can use the bird and fly. And there you go. I don't know if you have to get to a point where you can use it, but I think the bird will kick in if you need it to kick in. But traversing the world is all based on how you hit these. I can't remember what they called them now, but when you hit these markers with your bow, it looked beautiful. It's a really beautiful game, and bearing in mind that the speed that it's running at, loading those assets in, it looks pretty good. I'm looking at it again now to see if there's any pop in, but it looks beautiful, doesn't it? Absolutely gorgeous. And then you've got to stroke your bird, people. Thank you. Sorry, I've got an itchy nose. You've got to stroke your bird and keep it happy. Apparently, there's a little scene in a bit where she's stroking it. I think it's an eagle. You get a little eagle symbol at the top as well, feathers. Yeah, there you go. Give it a little stroke, people. Give it a little stroke. Look how happy he is. He seems to glow in the chest as you do it. Oh, little cuddle. Yeah, I mean, every game I looked at just looked pretty. The only two that didn't really do anything for me were Godfall and Hitman. But I love Hitman. I've got that game I still haven't played in my collection downstairs, the steel box of the last one. It just didn't look that great it just didn't look like it was very smooth. If they'd done that trailer and it was like 60 frames per second or something, I would have been, holy shit, that looks incredible. But it looked really sticky. It looked like it was running at about 20 frames per second or something. It didn't look great at all. I mean, I wonder about these things. I mean, is it because it's a VR game and it has to play through the headset that something makes it harder to play smoother? I don't know. But you think a smaller screen would be much easier to... Oh, well, I suppose they're showing a smaller screen on a bigger screen, so maybe that's what it was. Maybe if you're actually playing it with the headset on, it's dead smooth. It could be, could be that. I mean, it's a terrific idea. Being an assassin, you've got to reach around people's necks and all that malarkey. I mean, God's sake, make people into a serial killer, why don't you? Because the clip ended up with them, like, strangling somebody. Look at that, people. It's beautiful, it's true. Well, there you are. I think that's pretty much what I had to say, people. I don't think I have much else to ramble on about today. I think I've been talking for a while, though. But I was much more excited for last gen. Certainly at this stage, I'm sure I was. I mean, I was certainly more excited about those games, and I would go back and play those games in a heartbeat. Probably with the exception of Infamous Second Son. Probably feel like I've done it and don't want to go back. It just wasn't an interesting enough world. I guess we'll fight. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, maybe I'm just getting ahead of myself. But again, it's because they're stretching it out to the very last minute. And they're doing it, I feel, because they're behind. And I feel like if that's the case, you should just calm down and just be honest and open and say, look, because of the situation, we're going to leave everything we're going to say now is going to be left until September. And if we feel like we're in a position that we're ready to launch, we will give you all of the details then, and you've got a month or 2 months to order your stuff. And that's fine. Like, why do you need to do any more than that? We're not going to go off buying anything else in the meantime. You don't have to keep hyping us up. I mean, I get we want stuff to watch and be interested in, but it's just getting exhausting now. Waiting for this big moment to make me go, yeah, and it never really happens. It's like, maybe I would feel differently if they'd actually let me pre-order my consoles already, Like, maybe it's because... I mean, I think the thing that's frustrating me the most is probably the fact that they've not come out, told us how much they are, and that we can pre-order them. If they just let us do that, then I think I'd probably settle down a little bit. Because I'd be delighted just to have my existing library playing on a more powerful console anyway, and wait for the big titles to come. I'd rather wait than have half-hearted titles at the beginning. But anyway, here's hoping. It's supposed to be that I think we're getting another PlayStation event in August that's supposed to be another big one. So we'll see what happens with that. And I feel like Microsoft will do another big event at the tail end of August. I'd be very, very surprised if we get through August and they don't announce what the price is and let us pre-order is. Because it's getting so tight now. I mean, then you're into September and October. And if November is your launch dates, then you've only got 2 months to let us pre-order them. But Sony did say that they're not going to just suddenly go, they're available. They will give us plenty of warning. But I don't know. I might be proven wrong entirely when they actually do the announcements and say, here's our launch titles, and I just go, holy shit. To be honest with you, if on day one I can have Ratchet & Clank and Demon's Souls on the PlayStation 5 and full backward compliance to PS4, more than happy. Xbox Series X, if I can have Halo on day one just to play it, just be Master Chief again for a bit, then fine. And I've got all of my backward compatibility catalogue, which is just insanity. And I'll probably then start doing Games Pass and get myself into a lot more games than I was that are on there just to try them out. But I'm excited for my third-party stuff on Xbox, certainly at the minute. I'm uber stoked about what Xbox are giving us in 2 years' time. Uber stoked with the studios that they've taken on. And if they do buy Warner Brothers, that'll be epic. Epic. Well, not Warner Brothers, but Warner Brothers Interactive. You know what I meant. So there you are, people. Shall we leave it there? I think, is that Spelunky now? I think it is. The one that was like, yeah, 2D platform. It looks fantastic. Apparently it's been in development for so long, but as a 2D'er, it got me really interested. I've not played a 2D game in ages. Anyway, there you are, people. It has been. Yes, it has. Oh, let me know in the comments below, people, about any of the things we've been talking about. Let me know if you've seen anything in the state of play that you thought was for you. Let me know how you feel about the new launch of the new gen. What you feel about the games that are coming for them. Is there anything that's got you uberly stoked? Am I being a Mr. Negativity Pants? Am I? You have to let me know. There you are, people. That is all I have for you. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you in this podcast of mine today, and I shall see you all next time, folks. Take it easy. Bye.